Caught my husband cheating with my best friend. Here's how I took back control. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. His live location blinked over Tessa's studio, then stopped, twice. The pin pulsed at 7:11 p.m., exactly when Ethan texted, "Running late. Printer jam at the office." I stared at the blue dot on my phone and felt the floor of our small apartment tilt a degree. I'm Nora, 30, barcode organized, the kind of person who labels cables and keeps receipts in a cloud folder with sensible names. I have a job that relies on being calm. Clinic coordinator, the person who turns chaos into appointments and answers into plans. I like lists, leftovers, and reliable people. Ethan used to be reliable like a lighthouse. Tessa used to be my lighthouse keeper's friend. Our life is modest, but it's ours. Rent paid, one shared card, one battered hatchback that starts when it wants to be kind. We meal prep on Sundays, walk the greenway on Thursdays, and switch who does laundry based on whose socks are louder. I tell you this because steadiness is the point, the scaffolding you notice only when it creaks. Lately, it's been creaking. The first time his pin hovered near Tessa's studio, I told myself stories about coffee pickups and surprise favors. The second time, I told myself not to be dramatic. The third time, I took a screenshot and named it with the date and time, because habits are love letters to the future version of you who needs proof. I set the screenshot in a new folder, Evidence, Soft. I pressed my palm to the kitchen counter's cool laminate and listened to the hum of our ancient fridge like it might translate my fear into something useful. I wanted a reason that didn't ruin anything. I wanted a reason that didn't know my name. The pin disappeared, then reappeared a block over, right by the hotel with the green awning. The hotel's green awning matched the color I used for lies. Ethan and I met at a yard sale when we both grabbed the same cast iron skillet. He made a joke about shared custody, and I said, "You cook Mondays, I'll take Wednesdays," and 2 years later we did. We married in a municipal building that smells like paper and citrus cleaner. Tessa cried happy tears and fixed my hair in the bathroom with bobby pins and chapstick. We called her chosen family long before the algorithm did. She's the person who brought me ginger ale when I had the flu and who texted Ethan to take me outside when I got panic breathing at a crowded concert. She's also the person who started posting vague quotes about energy and alignment 3 months ago, right when Ethan started lifting again at night. The fresh wound. Last Saturday's emergency client call that lasted 3 hours with no call log. He came home smelling like hotel soap, that bright synthetic scent that always lives in the corners of rooms. I asked, "How was the client?" He said, stressed, and bit the inside of his cheek, a tell I used to read as tenderness. Tessa came by Sunday with iced coffees and a story about a chaotic week, then pivoted to me, asking warm questions that felt like mittens on a hot stove, soft and wrong. I remind myself that love is not a courtroom and people are not exhibits, but also that patterns are the truest sentences we write. I checked our shared calendar. Ethan had added gym, cardio block from 6 to 8 p.m. on Tuesday and Thursday, then color-coded it green like Tessa's awning. He color-coded his alibi the same shade as her doorway. The first red flags were polite, workouts that ran long, muted notifications that stayed muted, 2 separate texts from Ethan and Tessa using the same joke about productivity juice on the same day. A duplicate charge hit our joint card, Cafe Finch, $18. 42, twice, 8 minutes apart. I pictured him standing in line, buying 2 lemon bars and 2 Americanos, then told myself he bought one for a coworker whose name I didn't need to know. That is how you keep the peace. You edit the picture and crop your face out. Priya, who knows me longer than anyone, watched me watch my phone and said, "Write a list." I wrote, location pings, duplicate charges, shared phrasing, gym nights. I added another line I hated. The sudden compliments for Tessa's posts from Ethan's account, a little too on the nose, like he was practicing how to sound like a stranger. I checked the rideshare app we both use. His Tuesday trip home started not at the gym, but a block south, near the hotel trash alley. I looked up and realized I'd been breathing shallow like a person learning to swim by reading about swimming. I set my phone down and washed a mug that was already clean. When he came home, he kissed my forehead without looking at my eyes. "Long day," he said. "Printer jam." I noted the time, saved a screenshot, and steadied my breathing. His kiss missed my eyes, and the receipt didn't miss anything. Escalation arrived on a bland Thursday with a bright receipt. My bank pinged at 7:58 p.m. Hotel Gallon, lobby bar, $41.20. I stared at the merchant code and felt the world narrow to a straw. At 8:11, Tessa posted a boomerang of clinking glasses in soft light, tagged vaguely downtown. Ethan texted me, running late, cardio plus steam. He added a sweating emoji like a sticker on a cracked window. I screenshotted everything and labeled it with times. Then I called Tessa. You out? I asked, casual as breadcrumbs. Oh, just a quick drink with a client, she said, tone light. You know how it is. Tessa does not have clients. She has freelance gigs that live half in her head and half on Canva. Fun, I said, and stared at the ceiling where a shadow moved like a gull on a cloudy day. Tell Ethan dinner's in the fridge if he gets home first. Silence, a blink, then a laugh I had loved since we were 22. I walked to the bedroom and sat on the floor because the bed felt too tall for what I knew. When you work at a clinic, you learn how to breathe between bad news sentences. In, count 4. Out, count 6. I wrote the numbers down next to the receipts, as if steady exhalations could make a case file kind. At 9:03, Ethan's pin stopped moving at the Green Awning Hotel. At 9:31, a new charge, rideshare, $12.84, from the alley. I noted the time, saved a screenshot, and steadied my breathing. The alley knew the truth before I let myself say it. I tried soft confrontation because I still believed in soft landings. Can we check in? I asked when he walked in at 10:12, hair damp like he'd showered somewhere that wasn't ours. He smiled the way people smile when they guess the right answer on a game show. Absolutely. I've been stressed. You've been distant. We should book a weekend away. He moved through our kitchen like a tour guide for a life I wasn't sure we owned. I love you, he said, touching the magnet with our grocery list, as if love could be proven by proximity to milk and eggs. Are you seeing someone? I asked. My voice surprised me. Clean, not sharp. He blinked, then reached for me, then put his hands on the counter instead. I feel unseen, he said. You're always organizing. You make everything about systems. He was love-bombing with grenades made of insight. We should reset our intimacy, he said, like he'd read it in a thread. Priya texted me a single word, document. I typed a timeline while he talked, dates and charges, and the exact phrasing of his new complaints. He peered over and said, almost amused, Are you seriously making minutes right now? I'm making sense, I said. He softened his voice. Nora, you're spiraling. Tessa thinks you need to feel chosen again. I felt the words settle like cold rain. Tessa thinks. Tessa thinks. Tessa thinks. I washed my hands and dried them slowly, deciding to become a person who chooses rails when the ground moves. I noted the time, saved a screenshot, and steadied my breathing. Tomorrow I would stop asking nicely and start building a trap. I didn't yell. I made tea and opened 3 apps. First, the shared calendar. Ethan had duplicated Tuesday's gym, cardio block, and moved it forward a week, but a tiny gray tooltip showed its original creation time. 5:42 p.m. The exact minute Tessa texted me a selfie captioned, resetting with movement. She stood by a studio mirror, and in the reflection you could see a green awning, a slice of the hotel sign, cropped like a shy truth. Second, rideshare history. Ethan and I share the same corporate discount. His archive showed a Tuesday pickup at 9:35 p.m. from the alley behind the hotel, destination, our street, 12 minutes away. The driver left a cheerful 5-star review. Quiet rider, tipped well. If data had a tone, this one hummed neutral. Third, photo metadata. Tessa posted a throwback to last week's story at 8:12, soft golden light, 2 stemmed glasses cropped out of frame. Throwback implies past, not simultaneous. I saved the story and ran it through a simple EXIF viewer Priya had shown me years ago. The stamp read 7:59 p.m. The cafe she geotagged was closed on Thursdays. The sun in her picture leaned at an angle the alley couldn't produce. I opened a new folder, Evidence, hard. I typed a title like a case manager, Timeline, Nora V. Doubt. It felt dramatic. It also felt like oxygen. I logged the merchant codes, the boomerang's upload delay, the rideshare times, and the gym's access logs I requested by email from the front desk. The manager wrote back in 4 minutes. Ethan had not checked in that night. The kind woman apologized to a situation she didn't know. I thanked her anyway. Priya came over with her laptop. No questions first. She doesn't push people underwater with advice. She hands them a plank. You have enough to stop guessing, she said. Next, keep your money safe and plan the reveal so there's a record. I breathed and stared at the wall calendar, still green with gym blocks like ivy that didn't belong. The next ding on my phone wasn't love, it was the lease. The lease renewal email arrived at 8:03 a.m. with a small line that changed the temperature of the day. Cosigner updates requested. We don't have a cosigner. The attached draft listed a third contact address, Tessa's studio, in a field that should have been blank. I called the building office and asked for clarification. The manager, Mr. Dennis, sounded puzzled. We received a request from Ethan to add a mailing address for correspondence, he said. Sometimes people use their workplaces. I thanked him and hung up because crying at the wrong person solves nothing. Priya pointed at my list. Pattern, she said. Money, housing, time, all drifting toward the same gravity well. We spent Saturday morning on what she called cross-axis checks. She pulled up the gym's check-in CSV, my bank's downloadable charges, and the rideshare histories. We color-coded by category: green for gym, yellow for cafe, blue for transport, red for hotel, gray for Tessa posts. Lines that were once separate began to braid into something that had a shape. We walked to Cafe Finch for an ordinary coffee to test my voice in public. The barista wears a tiny camera at the register for staff safety. A sign says so in polite font. Priya asked, Do you keep footage? The barista said, Only a week. He scrolled yesterday's reel. At 7:54 p.m, 2 people bought 2 drinks with our joint card. The camera caught hands, and a sliver of faces angled away. I recognized Ethan's watch band and Tessa's ring. A little moon I bought her 3 birthdays ago when we couldn't afford rings with stones. Back home, a bank alert pinged. A temporary hold removed on a hotel transaction. I screen captured the entire notification and added it to evidence. Hard. Then I printed everything, because paper calms me. Priya laid the sheets across the dining table like tiles, then aligned the corners with a care that made me want to keep breathing. Time to call Ms. Alvarez, she said. You need procedure, not explosions. I booked the consult, and Ethan texted, Dinner tonight? Just us 2. I thought the worst was the hotel. The worst was our money behaving like a stranger. While I waited for Ms. Alvarez's assistant to confirm, I opened the card portal and scanned the last 60 days. 3. Gift. Purchases routed to an online marketplace ID never used. Shipping address. Tessa's studio. Description fields read like apologies. Wellness kit. Artisanal candle set. Linen throw. The linen throw matched the one in Tessa's post where she captioned, Softness after a hard week. My name paid for softness I didn't receive. I called the marketplace, asked for a supervisor, and explained calmly that my joint card had been used for deliveries to a third party. He was kind in the way of people who have scripts for panic. He confirmed the order emails. The gift message field on one of them read, You deserve beautiful things. E. It did not specify which E. Priya took photos of the screen and then did something I hadn't thought to do. She opened our cloud drive audit log. Someone had opened our budget spreadsheet at 6:02 a.m. on a Tuesday from an unrecognized device tag. Autosave recorded a brief hover over the vacation line and then a rename of a tab from wish list to someday. The edit lasted 38 seconds. The device name ended with guest. This isn't just hearts, Priya said softly. This is logistics. She highlighted the lease email. If Ethan was moving mail to Tessa's address, he was building a bridge we hadn't agreed to cross. Ms. Alvarez's assistant called back. Initial consult tomorrow at 9, she said. Bring a written timeline and any documents, and consider freezing shared accounts in the meantime. I thanked her and called the bank. The representative verified my identity, then froze the card and issued me a new one. When Ethan texted a half hour later, Groceries after work? I replied, They'll handle it. I watched the dots dance, then disappear. The next package notification landed, addressed to her studio, paid by us. Ms. Alvarez wore a navy blazer and a voice that sounded like a rail you could hold. She listened without theatrics, asked for dates, and circled 3 items: the hotel charges, the studio deliveries, and the lease addendum. You are not here to win a moral contest, she said, eyes kind. You are here to secure your safety and your future. 2 tracks, financial containment and a controlled disclosure. She walked us through steps, freeze joint cards, move my direct deposit to a separate account, change passwords for email and cloud storage, and enable 2-factor on every service I touch. Do not share any new passwords, she said. If he guesses, change again. She explained how a mediated meeting would work. Ground rules, neutral space, witness present, evidence presented calmly, outcome documented in writing. Do not ambush, she said. Invite, and don't break your own plan. Back home, Priya and I built the controlled disclosure. We printed statements, clipped screenshots, and arranged a timeline board on foam core with thin string connecting times to places like a gentle detective show that refused drama. Then we planted the trigger, a decoy girls' night set by Priya at a bar near the hotel, an event I would forget to mention to Ethan. Tessa, predictable and competitive, liked the post and messaged Priya, "Wish I could come." Priya replied, "Last minute. Might swing by after 9. At 8:52, I texted Ethan, "Home by 10. He replied, "Might run late, steam room." Priya watched my face and nodded. "You're ready," she said. "You're not a detective for sport. You're a person protecting a life." I placed the foam core by the door and set the folder on top like a book I intended to read to the end. Ethan wrote, "Surprise you soon." And Tessa posted, "Close to downtown, glowing." Ethan became attentive with the speed of a weather change. He woke early to make coffee, left a sticky note that said, "Team us," and texted heart emojis with the regularity of a metronome. He suggested we write gratitudes before bed. "Maybe we're both off," he said, eyes soft. "We can recalibrate. If love were only words, I might have relaxed into them like a warm bath. But words don't outrun timestamps." Tessa sent a long, worried about you text at lunchtime. She said I seemed guarded and that she missed our magnetism, a word that belonged more to her grid than my life. She offered to bring self-care treats and suggested a spontaneous spa night. Priya read over my shoulder and shook her head. "They're testing the fence," she said. "Don't narrate your plans. Don't negotiate your boundaries." I felt the wobble anyway. The past has a magnet of its own. The time Tessa drove me to urgent care at midnight. The summer Ethan waited outside my interview with celebratory tacos. I almost texted, "Let's talk, just us," because clarity dressed as kindness can still be a trap. At 5, Ms. Alvarez confirmed tomorrow's mediation slot. I texted Ethan, "Please attend a meeting with me tomorrow morning. I have something important to discuss." He replied in under a minute. "Of course. Dinner tonight? He'll pick up flowers." Priya raised an eyebrow. Guilt plus charm. Classic blend. I nodded and put my phone face down, hands flat on the table like I was learning an instrument again and needed to feel the wood to hear the note. At 7:14, his live location blinked, paused, and slid toward the hotel. I didn't chase the dot. I ironed a shirt I hadn't worn since I believed in occasions. Priya arrived with printer ink and protein bars. We packed the folder, bank statements, rideshare receipts, calendar logs, printed screenshots of Tessa's posts with timestamps, and the lease email. I labeled each section with sticky flags: time, money, place, words. On the timeline board, the strings were thin but unbroken. At 8:55 a.m., we walked into Ms. Alvarez's office. The waiting room had the quiet gravity of a library. Ms. Alvarez offered water and ground rules. "We will speak without shouting. We will use dates and times. We will decide next steps." Ethan arrived 2 minutes late with flowers he tried to hand to me. I looked at them, a dozen sunflowers like an apology performed, and pointed to a side table. "They'll need water," I said. Tessa walked in behind him, chin high, a surprise guest who wanted to control a narrative. Ms. Alvarez's assistant politely asked her to wait outside. "Only parties to the relationship are present," she said. Tessa's smile dropped into a polite rectangle, then vanished. "Ms. Alvarez began. Nora has prepared a timeline. Ethan, you will have space to respond. This meeting is to surface facts and plan for safety and logistics." Her voice kept distance from drama without losing compassion. Priya sat near the door with a notepad as a witness. I opened the folder and felt the tremor in my hands quiet the way a bridge hums when it holds. Ethan said, "This feels extreme," and Ms. Alvarez said, "Please look at page 1. I started with time. "Tuesday," I said, placing page 1 on the table, 7:11 p.m. Ethan texts printer jam, 7:59. Tessa posts a throwback taken at 7:59. 8:11. Her boomerang, 9:03. Your pin stops at the hotel, 9:31. Rideshare from the alley. I slid the rideshare receipt and the bank alerts forward. Ethan's mouth made a small shape he tried to swallow. "Coincidence," he said weakly. "City patterns. Money," I said, placing page 2. 3 marketplace gifts to her studio on our joint card. Gift messages for me. Lease addendum adding her address as correspondence. Ms. Alvarez glanced at the lease email and circled the field. "This has legal implications," she said. "Mail direction without consent is not an administrative note." "Place," I said, laying the gym's non-check-in response beside the calendar's creation times. "You were not at the gym. You moved calendar entries to look consistent." He rubbed his forehead. "We're friends," he said. "We met to talk about you." She was helping me plan a surprise. "Then why does the surprise live at her studio and cost our money?" I asked. "Why do receipts say hotel?" Tessa's voice bled through the door, muted. Ms. Alvarez nodded toward it, then back at Ethan. "Today is a choice point. Nora will state conditions," she said. I read from my paper because paper kept me from apologizing for asking for air. Separate finances immediately. No access to my accounts. Remove any third-party addresses from lease documents. STI screenings with results shared. Individual therapy for both if reconciliation is even considered. No contact with Tessa during this process. Written acknowledgement of the timeline. And a move-out plan. Ethan's denial cracked when he saw the lease lines circled in red ink. Fallout is quieter than television. Its forms and keys and boxes and the scrape of a hanger against a closet rod. Ethan packed a duffel and 4 boxes while Priya and I changed the Wi-Fi password and removed his device from our cloud. He cried, then hardened, then cried again. "You're ruining everything with your system," he said, like organization was a weapon rather than a raft. MS. Alvarez emailed a separation checklist. Mail forwarding, utilities, emergency contacts, secondary keys, pet care, we have none, and calendar boundaries. We scheduled STI screenings because adults who make adult choices do adult follow-through. I texted 2 friends to say, "We are separating. I'm safe. Please don't relay messages." One replied a paragraph of love. The other wrote, "You sure it's not a misunderstanding?" And I put my phone down because speaking into a well steals your voice. At work, I approved schedules, answered patient questions, and drank water like it could teach my body to process shock quietly. My supervisor asked if I needed time. "Later," I said. "Right now, routine helps." That night, I moved his toothbrush into a Ziploc and labeled it because labels make endings merciful. The apartment felt both bigger and colder. The lease office confirmed the removal of any third-party addresses and flagged our file for no external correspondence. The receptionist said, "You're doing the right thing," and I cried in a stairwell where the paint smelled like new rules. The group chat split along lines I had not drawn. Tessa posted a vague story about people who weaponize narratives. I muted her. Muting is mercy too. In the quiet, I heard relief arrive on small, careful feet. Healing didn't feel like fireworks. It felt like lists that finally fit on one page. I made a budget that had my name on every line. I cooked simple food that didn't prove anything. Eggs, rice, roasted carrots. I slept 6 hours in a row and woke up with a pillow crease that looked like a map to somewhere fine. Priya and I walked the long loop and talked about everything except them until talking felt safe again. I scheduled therapy with a woman who said my boundaries were a love letter to my future self. We practiced scripts. "No, that doesn't work for me." And "I'm not discussing this, and that's a private matter." I practiced them in the mirror until my mouth knew how to hold them without apology. I repainted the hallway, a small ceremony of reclaiming, with a color that wasn't anyone's alibi. Ms. Alvarez sent a note that the interim agreement was signed, finances separated, move-out complete, lease corrected, no contact, terms acknowledged. She added 3 resources, a support group, a legal aid clinic, and a list of digital safety tips. I changed my passwords again because I could. On Saturday, I took the foam core timeline apart and recycled the string. Evidence becomes memory, Priya said, and memory becomes instruction. I wrote a new list titled, What I Control: Sleep, Food, Money, Contact, Time. I put it on the fridge with a plain magnet that didn't need to mean anything to work. The apartment exhaled, and my calendar finally stopped blinking green. I don't have a cinematic ending. I have a clean sink, a paid bill, and a nightlight that glows like a small promise. If you are where I was, here is what helped. Write everything down, even when your hands shake. Verify links and dates. Separate your money fast. Invite a witness. Speak in sentences with times. Keep the story out of the internet while you put your life back into your hands. I forgave myself for not seeing it sooner and for seeing it exactly when I did. Forgiveness for them is a separate project with conditions and timelines I don't owe the world. I'm not angry all the time. I'm busy watering plants and stretching in the morning and learning that silence can be generous when it isn't hiding anything. The best part is small. The way the apartment smells like oranges after I mop. The way my chest stays quiet when my phone dings. The way the night ends without waiting for a door to open. I put the cast iron skillet we fought over at that yard sale back on the stove and cooked breakfast for one. It tasted like calm. It tasted like mine. If you need a line to hold, use this. Dignity over drama, documentation over guesses, and a plan over a performance. Choose the rails when the ground moves, and invite only the people who will help you walk them. I noted the time, saved another screenshot, and steadied my breathing. Control came back quietly, carrying keys, a budget, and a steadier breath.